Hi everybody and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am naturopath Fiona Chin, co-founder of Kidney Coach and Kaigenesis, a range of supplements designed for people diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. Whether you need to raise your EGFR or lower your creatinine, we might have a supplement for you. Off to a great start, aren't we, Lindsay? And I'm joined again today by the wonderful, the beautiful, the stunning, fabulous Lindsey Zirker. Lindsay is a renal dietitian. She works with the team at Kidney Nutritional Institute. She is an absolute expert on all things dialysis. She worked in the dialysis ward for longer than I think we both care to remember, because of how traumatizing it is being in a dialysis ward. And for anyone out there on dialysis, we send our love and healing to you. We know that's a really tough thing to be doing 3-4 times a week. Lindsay is a super brain, super genius when it comes to all things minerals and hormones, and we are working our way through the different hormones and their relationship to chronic kidney disease and things that you might need to look out for when it comes to testing and things to ask your doctor. And it's an interesting one we're going to do today because most people wouldn't think this would fall into the hormone category, and we're going to talk about all things cholesterol. And it's interesting, before I hit record, we were talking about cholesterol has become quite political. And I feel like, and I'll let you speak to this, that everything that most people knew about cholesterol back in the 80s is wrong. And so we're starting to see all the latest scientific studies catch up, but that doesn't mean necessarily that your specialist or doctor might be all over that sort of stuff. So it is a very changing landscape when it comes to cholesterol. So we wanted to go over all the things that we've seen, what I've experienced in clinical practice, what Lindsay has found digging through the research, and some of the things that we now know about cholesterol, and give you a bit of an update. And I'm sure in a couple of years' time, we'll have to do this one all over again because, like I say, it's changing a lot. So, Lindsay, I'm going to hand it over to you, but maybe just start us off. Cholesterol in our hormone topic. Tell me more.
Yes. So I think that most of the time when you hear cholesterol, you think, oh, that's the bad thing that causes heart problems. Like I feel like that's, off the top of your head when you hear cholesterol, that's probably one of the first things people think of. But when I was like digging into this topic, I was like, I want to think about this from the perspective of the body makes this like on purpose. It's not like a side metabolite that happens when it's processing something else. Like the body makes cholesterol on purpose. And so I wanted to think through like, why is the body doing that? And when this happens, why does the body do that? And it led me down some really interesting rabbit holes. But cholesterol is I think, what is the description? Like a waxy fat-like molecule, and your body uses it to build cell membranes. So like all your cells need it, and also make steroid hormones. So hormones that fall into that category would be like estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, cortisol, DHEA, prednisone, aldosterone, all those kind of things. But also, you need cholesterol to help with vitamin D synthesis, bile acids, which help with digestion. Also, cholesterol is used to transport fat-soluble vitamins, so vitamin D, E, A, and did I miss one? I don't know. So fat-soluble
Yeah.
vitamins.
And
Yeah.
K.
K.
DAE.
I was like, I feel like there's another.
Okay, yeah.
And it actually also provides immune support. It helps activate the T cell receptors and helps with signaling in the immune system. And really, the liver makes tons of it. Only a small part comes from food. And so, like, cholesterol is a pretty important thing for the body. Like, you really need it. So.
Yeah, so that being said, why is there such, well, in the past, why has there been such a rhetoric about we need to reduce cholesterol? And it seems to me when, say I've got a patient that maybe their GP is thinking they fall into the heart category, so maybe elevated blood pressure, and they will say there's no too low cholesterol reading, which I will totally disagree with, but I'll
Oh,
let you
yeah.
talk first, like, and they will just put people on medications, normally statins, to decrease cholesterol to whatever level. I've seen some people say like we want levels under like 2.
I don't understand that. Like, if your body needs it, then how can you say there's like, but this is a common thread that we see with kidney disease. Like people are scared of too much potassium, too much calcium, too much phosphorus, too much B vitamins, too much vitamin C. And no one's thinking about, well, what if you don't have enough of it? Like, do kidney patients legitimately need less of these things? No, they don't. They just have more struggles regulating them. Um, and I feel like with chronic disease, cholesterol is something that the body is trying to tell us something. I feel like it's a marker for, please listen to me. I have something to say about what's going on here. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, kind of going back to your question about like why has it been kind of villainized?
Hmm.
I think this is a problem with nutrition research like across the board. Um, Maybe just medical research. I don't know. We could cast a really wide net here. They always say that like correlation is not causation, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like it's a legitimate challenge. Like we do this research so we can learn and understand things. And whether the research is done or not, people need help. And so people are like, well, this is the latest thing that we know, so we're going to do that. Even if later on we find actually that was totally fake. Sorry. But we're just like, we're always just trying to do our best. And with cholesterol, I feel like definitely like when they are like, oh my gosh, heart disease, so bad. Like everyone's having, heart attacks or atherosclerosis or, all these different, problems. And they noticed when people have high cholesterol, their risk is increased for all these various heart problems. And so that's why, let's reduce cholesterol, we reduce the risk. But the body is never that simple. Any kind of chronic disease is never that simple. And so that's why it's kind of wrong. But that's how it got villainized. That is its origin story as the
Yeah.
villain.
So interesting. So it was directly causation, effect cause. So that everyone was saying, well, people with elevated heart risk and heart disease have high cholesterol. You're saying, actually, what we should have looked at is why do we have high cholesterol? Maybe the body is more intelligent than we give it credit for. Is it trying to assimilate more nutrients, i.e., fat soluble vitamins? Is it trying to improve cellular membrane stability, which would make sense with the atherosclerotic part, which is obviously where we
Yeah.
get atherosclerotic, which is an oxidization of foam cells inside the endothelial blood vessel walls. The theory is it's oxidized cholesterol that causes that. And it infiltrates into the walls, makes them unstable, and then we're more likely to get bits of that cholesterol plaque breaking off and causing clots and all
Yeah.
of those kind of things blocking blood vessels. So is that null and void, or is that still a process that happens? And walk me through the role that cholesterol plays in that, because I think that's the thing that most people understand, is that's why we want to reduce it. We want to take out all this atherosclerosis inside the blood vessel walls. So isn't reducing cholesterol, isn't that what we do? And then we would use things like statins to do that, or is that wrong?
So I would say like it's not like wrong because I mean there's still research out there that's like, hey, this can help. But it's not like for everyone. And it also doesn't necessarily mean that like based on my understanding, statins shouldn't always be first line therapy for people who are at risk for heart disease. Kind of as we were talking about before we went on, that statins are not, they're not the villain either, really. Like cholesterol has not been um, understood correctly, but I also feel like statins have not been maybe used to their best benefit. And so neither of them are truly the villain, but they kind of have been made that way because we haven't put them in the right context. And so, I mean, like you were saying, like the risk really is when the the different particles they get stuck in the artery walls, they get oxidized and create problems. But we have to be thinking about, well, why why are they getting stuck there? Why are they getting oxidized? And like, are there other things we can do to help? Because actually, it's pretty complex. It's not like, I don't know. I think the best way to look at it is when we look at the different labs or the different particles that you see in a lipid panel. I feel like that helps it make sense as to why it's not just as simple as lower the cholesterol. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but that's one of the reasons why. So maybe if we walk through the different um, particles,
Hmm.
and then we can say this is why. So we have the total cholesterol, and I feel like this is definitely getting like much more awareness that total cholesterol is not that helpful of a number as far as it relates to cardiovascular risk. I feel like that's getting fairly
Agree.
well accepted.
Yeah.
Um, so we're talking about the different particles. So the way that cholesterol, like we said, that it helps build cell membranes and make all these steroid hormones, it does all these things. The question that we ask ourselves is, well, how does it get from the liver where it's made to all over the body to do all of those different things? And it is packaged inside lipoproteins. So that's those different particles that you see on your lipid panel. The LDL or the bad cholesterol, the HDL or the healthy cholesterol, the VLDL, like the worst cholesterol. Um, and then there's also apolipoprotein B. Maybe I like kind of messed that up, but um, that one is also another particle that carries cholesterol. All of these things kind of have a role in helping cholesterol get to where it needs to go. So, like LDL, for example, it helps transport cholesterol from the liver to the other cells and tissues throughout the body to help with cellular repair, help with the steroid production, help it do all of the things. So it's kind of like a cholesterol delivery truck. And then to have the apolipoprotein B, that's kind of like the barcode, so that it gets to a more specific place. Some of it, the particles, they're not entirely sure what they do. And then lipoprotein A. Maybe I'm saying that piece wrong. No, that's right.
That's all right. That's nice.
Lipoprotein A.
Yeah.
That is the really villainous one. It's genetically determined, and that one is much more like inflammatory, with clotting, lots of things. It's an independent risk factor considered. But it is used in wound healing and tissue repair. It interacts with fibrin at the injury sites of things. So, I mean, it does have a place. It's not like these are all just bad things.
Mm.
Um, and then we have the VLDL, which is the very low density lipoprotein. It helps get triglycerides out of the liver. And once the triglycerides are taken out, then those particles shrink back into LDL. And then we have HDL, which is the particle that goes and picks up extra cholesterol from the tissues, brings it back to the liver, and then the liver will convert that into bile acid, and it gets rid of that extra cholesterol through the GI tract in that bile. It also is kind of like an immune mop. It helps bind to LPS. Have we talked about LPS on our podcast before? I feel like.
Yeah, we haven't gone into a heap of detail, but for people that don't know, product from incorrect microbiome sort of production.
Yeah.
It's like toxins from the gut, basically.
Yeah. Lipopolysaccharides. So it is an endotoxin, and HDL cholesterol helps bind that up. And lipopolysaccharides, it is a like big factor in contributing to kidney fibrosis,
Hmm.
aside from creating inflammation everywhere. They're pretty bad things.
Yeah.
So, so all of these little particles, they're kind of all a part of the cholesterol. They all have these important roles that they do, because if you don't have any LDL, then then how is your cholesterol going to get from the liver to the other cells to help you make estrogen or testosterone or cortisol or any of those things? How is it going to help you have healthy cells as you are working on your health to have healthy cell turnover and make all those nice cell membranes so that they let in the right things, keep out the bad, and all of that stuff? You have to have cholesterol for that. So I feel like it's kind of a red flag. If the doctor's like, we need this to be as low as possible, be like, am I a special case? Do I not need steroid hormone? Like, I don't know. I just, maybe there's something I'm missing there, which is totally possible. But I just feel like, you know, your body makes it, like healthy people's bodies, they make cholesterol for these things.
Yeah, and look, the research definitely says that as soon as you lower total cholesterol below, I think it's 2.2, your risk of suicide and mental health disease goes through the roof.
Yeah, because your hormones are all whacked out and your everything is just messed up. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
be.
So talk to me, because the thing that, I do pay a lot of attention to when I'm running your version of a Nutri-Eval, which we call Nutristat in Australia, is I'm looking at the size of the particles of cholesterol. So we have, you can have small or big cells. It runs on a scale. And so one of the things we look at is we look at total, we look at, VLDL subfractions and LDLs and HDLs, and then triglycerides, and then lipoprotein A's and B's. And then we're looking at what I spend a lot of time looking at is how big are the cholesterol molecules. So walk me through that, because a standard cholesterol panel doesn't test for this.
Yeah, they don't. When I was looking through this, it didn't like pop a lot of information up on it. But it definitely talked about how like some of the particles like LDL, they're smaller and they're more dense, so they're more likely to slip into artery walls. So that is a problem. But then you have other ones like the lipoprotein A, which they have like an extra protein tail. And so it wasn't necessarily a size piece, but the protein that's attached with that makes it like more sticky. And so that's one of the reasons that it's more inflammatory, more at risk for creating plaques and stuff like that. The VLDLs, so like I said, they transport triglycerides, and once the triglycerides removed, they shrink back into LDL. So definitely, if you're having more VLDL, that's kind of going to make you wonder what's going on with the triglyceride situation. So I think that in some cases, like the size is helpful to look at, because you want to see like, oh, like is my problem more like the LDL is going to slip into my artery walls, or is it more like, oh, we have this extra sticky lipoprotein A that's going to be causing a problem? But definitely like the VLDL, having them be larger is an issue. But I didn't get as that was not as much of a rabbit hole that I went down. So you should definitely give us more info on that one.
Well, in the
You're
Nutri-Evals and the Nutristats, they're testing its what are they? It's total cholesterol size, I think. And so in that case, you want them generally on those general tests, unless you're doing a full subfraction test where it will give you all the sizes, all the little ones. But the general ones that you're looking for them to be bigger for your first point is that generally the small cholesterol molecules, and I'm pretty sure they're doing it with the LDLs. If they're small, exactly as you said, they're more likely to slip through the arterial walls and cause damage. And this probably takes us on. So yeah, on those tests, you're looking for them to be bigger and fluffier because it's harder for them then to penetrate the walls. And
Yeah.
to the point, they're probably doing more what they should be.
Hmm.
So then the next point, and you said this before we were on camera, that I definitely wanted to go about talking about is when it comes to what everybody knows cholesterol to be bad with, which is atherosclerosis and plaquing. It's not necessarily cholesterol, but the oxidation of cholesterol. So
Yeah.
talk to me about that, because I think you made a really good point before we hit record, was that for some people, if we can make sure they've got lots of antioxidants in place, or if they're, exercising and have a good general lifestyle, versus if they're a smoker and they have a high oxidative burden from lifestyle, maybe they're, working down a coal mine and they smoke, and they're vaping and whatever it is, they've like massive oxidative stress. Then we might say, well, maybe statins, we might, maybe we do need to use extra help, versus someone where we can where they've got a lot of antioxidant support. So, because I think that was such a really good point that you made, and is just so clear, I think, about making decisions around medicating or not. So yeah, walk me through what you
Yeah.
said about that. So I thought that was good.
Well, it kind of was one of my rabbit holes when I went and I just was looking through like the different things that increase cholesterol or the different things that decrease cholesterol and why does it do that? And so that's where it really made me think about yeah, like if someone has lots of antioxidant support, is cholesterol really a high risk for them? I don't really think so. But if they don't have very good antioxidant support, or maybe they have lots of oxidative stress SNPs, even though they're doing their best, or maybe they're like, I have so many other things on my plate right now, I cannot micromanage these things at this time, that it's really important for us to say, okay, what's actually going on here? Is this, I mean, that's truly an evidence-based decision. What are the patient's resources? What does the evidence say? What does my clinical judgment say as a provider? And, what does my clinical experience say? And put that there. And so, like, people have had high cholesterol, like, for a while, for a long time, and they don't necessarily have all these heart related conditions. It is that oxidative stress piece, which is, more or less a part of all of our lives now. And so I think that looking at it and saying, well, are there things I can do to reduce oxidative stress to better support my body from having so much oxidative stress? That would be a really great first line therapy to do. Um, and it would be a great conversation to have with your provider about. I think the other example that I used was understanding the impact of thyroid on cholesterol, because T3, the active form of thyroid, that plays a pretty key role in cholesterol production. And so if someone has hypothyroid and they're on a T4 only medication and they're not converting to that T3, which is really common in people who have kidney disease, and they
Yes.
get put on a statin, that is not going to take care of the problem. Or it's just going to fix that one piece of the problem, but their hypothyroid situation doesn't get addressed. So it's just going to manifest itself in other areas. And so my brain just always goes to that place of being like, well, what is causing this problem? What is trying to be said here? And sometimes we can't find out the root cause of things, but I feel like it should be the provider's part of their job in treating their patients is to say, this is what I think is going on with your body. So this is what I think we can do to help it. And in the case of cholesterol, it could be like you need more oxidative stress support, or you need a thyroid medication, or, we need to figure out how you can better manage your stress. And, or we can try a statin if, those lifestyle things don't seem doable for you right now. I just feel like it's really important that you get the choices before you so that you can decide how you want to take care of your health. I feel like a lot of people just don't get that choice, and I feel like that's not okay.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. And the other interesting thing I wanted you to go and circle back to is so back in between the early 90s, like my mum was obsessed with the low fat diet, and low fat, it's sort of low sugar now. But, I grew up in a household, my dad and I are built like me, like we just ectomorphs. And then, my mum and my sister are sort of just more normal, but like this low fat everything that was going around. And so, and then you made this really great point that the American was it the American Heart Association
Yep.
changed those guidelines. Yeah, so walk me
Yep.
through that in case people are still living back in the 90s.
Yeah. So, and even like when I went to school, early 2000s, there's still this whole like eggs are so bad for the cholesterol, and like, oh, you have heart stuff, so that means you need to cut out saturated fats and, watch your cholesterol from foods and stuff. So then, of course, what happens? People start eating fake food, and now we know that was a bad call.
Yeah,
So,
hello, cancer.
yeah. So, I mean, saturated fat does play a role because it reduces the liver's ability to remove LDL cholesterol. It reduces LDL receptors on cells. Um, and so I think there's other pathways, but when I was looking through them, I was like, I don't know. I don't understand that quite yet. So there's other reasons, but that's part of the way that saturated fat increases cholesterol. But the whole low fat diet craze happened for heart health. And what did we find? No improvements in heart health.
um,
And since then, just like in general, we know it's not enough to have a, healthy amount of saturated fat or lower that. You do have to add in the unsaturated fat, the polymonounsaturated fats. Otherwise, you're not going to get the protective benefit for cardiovascular health. And unsaturated fat does upregulate LDL receptor activity, so it helps clear out the cholesterol. It increases the bile acid production, and it reduces, let's see, I'm looking at my notes. It reduces the VLDL secretion from the cells and also increases the clearance of triglycerides. My note says rice lipoproteins, but I think that's not what that means. So it's helping to get rid of the cholesterol by upregulating receptor activities and bile acid production. That's another reason why low fat diets were a problem, because you eat your food, there's not really any fat in it, so that means your body is going to release less bile acid into the gut. So your body is not using very much cholesterol to make bile acid. There's not very much bile acid to help get rid of the extra cholesterol. Just remember the HDL circles back there. And so yeah, the low fat situation is bad news. I did also look up because I have actually seen this with some of my CKD patients who were wanted to be really proactive. So they did a totally plant-based diet, but overall they weren't eating enough calories because, it's kind of hard to do when you're not eating very much protein. They didn't add in healthy fats because we don't really realize how much animal proteins help with fat. And so they were coming to me pretty malnourished. And definitely in other types of situations, um, people who have like prolonged eating disorders and things like that, they've definitely shown that cholesterol levels increase with malnutrition. And my patients weren't having eating disorders per se. They were just, trying to eat to help their kidneys, but they were malnourishing themselves. And so that increased the cholesterol because the body's like, excuse me, um, we're going to have to pull out the cholesterol from everywhere to take care of what we need to do. But also, um, just even a calorie deficit diet, ironically, suppresses thyroid. So that means
Hmm.
you're going to have less of that T3 activation, so therefore increased cholesterol. But also, kind of the same thing, reduced bile acid metabolism. It's moved out of the tissues, all those kind of things. And so I've definitely seen increased cholesterol with my patients. So we get them eating more overall. And look at that, their cholesterol improved.
Yeah. Without the need for a statin. I know it's crazy, and it sounds counterintuitive, but that's the
Yeah.
things that we learn about cholesterol over time. And as you mentioned, the World Health Heart Organization changed the guidelines in what,
Yeah.
2015, was it?
Yeah, I totally went off topic there.
No,
So,
no.
yeah. So that's like things that we've been learning about cholesterol all this time. We've learned these things. And so it was actually clear back in 2015 that they were like, yeah, we're not really going to recommend limiting cholesterol from the diet because a low cholesterol diet, number one, definitely does not lower cholesterol, but number two, it is inflammatory if you are replacing some real whole foods with highly processed fake foods. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So interesting. Yeah, so it's such a, I think, like I say, there's so much information coming around. We're starting to realize, and just listening to you talk, just how important cholesterol is as a signaling molecule and as a precursor to all our hormone production. I was saying to you before we hit record, like one of the most accurate ways actually to track perimenopausal women and see when they're heading into perimenopause, even before you'll see changes in luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating estrogen and progesterone and things like that, is you'll see the cholesterol start to go up because obviously their total hormone levels are starting to come down, and so the body compensates by increasing cholesterol, and so you'll see this gradual increase. And the woman may still be completely cyclic and all of those kind of things. And, in the past, what we've seen is that women may have been put on statins, or, if they've got a history. So I've definitely seen this in clinical practice where there's a family history of high cholesterol, which also happens. Some
Yep.
people just have naturally high cholesterol with no issues. It's just a familial kind of thing. But I've had patients with family history and a family history of heart disease. The patient may not have any. She's perimenopausal. She's mid-40s. Her cholesterol starts to do this march up. Even though she's eating well, exercising, nothing else changes, gets put on a statin. Then now we can see that actually makes their menopausal transition or their perimenopausal symptoms into menopause 10 times worse because you've taken away the body's compensatory mechanism where it's using cholesterol to buffer, especially estrogen. And so, yeah, I have definitely seen that happen time and time again. So, yeah, cholesterol, I just don't think we know the full story. And like you say, I think it is the body's way. We think we're smarter than nature and our body's own mechanisms, and we are not. So the body, like you say, it's communicating, it's doing all these things, and we should be, as practitioners, really curious, which you and I love to talk about curiosity, and I think that's why you and I go down these big rabbit holes, as to why would the body signal that? It's not that sometimes, yes, some people are just eating McDonald's for breakfast, KFC for lunch, and, Hungry Jacks for dinner. Let me not miss a food group there. So, like sometimes, yes, it is heaps of saturated fat. We've got an excess amount. You're going to see that in the
Yeah.
blood. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. It's, are we seeing some immune system changes where the body needs more cholesterol? Are their hormones tanking? I definitely see that. And interestingly, and I want to talk to statins because I think there's a lot of research coming out now about the issues of statins, and especially because a lot of our kidney patients might have peripheral neuropathy if they're diabetic. And one of the major side effects of statins is peripheral neuropathy. So I think we need to be aware of that. Interestingly, statins will suppress GLP-1 production. So GLP-1 is obviously what we're seeing in Ozempic. It's part of things like Mounjaro, and then all these new drugs are about to come out, which are GLP-1s and glucagon, and they work on a whole pile of different things. So if we're suppressing GLP-1 production, potentially we're increasing risks of obesity, and those kind of things. So that, and the crazy part about statins is taking statins now, you might know this stat. I can't remember if it was five, I think it's 5 days. All statins did was add 5 days to a lifespan if you were a it was 5 days.
No, I did
Yeah.
not.
It's a 5 day, it's a 5 day or 5 week. No, I'm 99% sure it's all statins do will give you an extra 5 days. And this is over the longitudinal studies, so people can go and look this up, and I'll see if I can find the studies and link it in below. But statin use, if you are someone with atherosclerotic heart disease where you genuinely need them, they'll just increase your life by 5 days. And then you go, is it worth it? And then the other crazy part I was telling you, this was put up on the ALS body science page, was he was a well-known, he was an ex-NHL player, told he was diagnosed with ALS, go home, he's got, 2 to 3 years to live. And he'd been on statins for years. He took himself off statins, all his symptoms went away. It was statin induced, it was not ALS. So statins have got some really decent side effects that they shouldn't be used as a cure, or to your point, they should be very thoughtfully considered if, all the other things can't go in place, if we can't get the antioxidant support in there. And I definitely have a theory with cholesterol that it's an oxidative damage process where they're becoming foam cells, where you've got small particles that are, infiltrating and causing sclerotic, exactly what happens in the kidneys, right? We get a sclerotic sort of factor happening in, maybe if you've got the VSGS gene and you get that increased sclerosis patterns, and you've got really small cholesterol particles, maybe, just maybe, if we would think about maybe using a statin, then there are certain genes where you shouldn't use statins. Dr. Ellie Campbell was on my podcast talking about that, and I can't remember which gene it is. You might know, but there's a gene where statins won't work in a certain gene subset. And if you are going to use statins, you must supplement coenzyme Q10 at the same time, because it depletes that. And of course, what is my number one go-to nutrient in kidney disease? Coenzyme Q10. It is one of the nutrients that has the most research about it. So if anyone out there with kidney disease has been put on a statin and you haven't gone down this rabbit hole, I highly encourage you to do it, and start coenzyme Q10 straight away. And also look at folate and B12. They'll also get depleted significantly being on statin drugs. But statins should be used only when everything else has been considered, ruled out, thought about, genes have been checked. You can't do the antioxidant stuff. Like, that's the only time they might have a place. Maybe even just to buy you some time till you can start to do those other things or get some other tests run. At least that's my professional opinion. I've never seen statins really do any really massive good for people. I'm generally dealing with the side effects of them. Did you want to add to that? I know that's just my clinical experience. I'm not a statin.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of a natural bias that I have. Like, I went into nutrition because I feel like nutrition is awesome as first line therapy most of the time. And so, but I also recognize that that's like, I've definitely had times in my life dealing with my chronic health issues where it's like, I just need the easiest thing right now. And some people might be in that place, but
For sure.
hopefully, like, put other things in motion so that, using a statin is a temporary thing until, you can find a provider or, figure out what kind of root things might be contributing. The other thing too is that, like I was saying before we came on, I was like, honestly, I don't really like hone in on cholesterol specifically. Usually we are dealing with lots of other things. And so we do that, and the cholesterol often responds really well. And when you look at the list of things of what kind of things increase or decrease LDL cholesterol, what things increase or decrease HDL cholesterol. There's a lot of things that we do to support kidney health that naturally help that. Um, Even if you don't have kidney disease, there's lots of things that, like the traditional, like whole foods, healthy diet support. It supports healthy cholesterol balance. Um, like increasing fiber, like soluble fiber specifically. So the types of
Yes.
foods that um, they will kind of collect water. So you think about like apple, the pectin in there, oatmeal, flax seeds, chia seeds, those kind of things. They help bind to the cholesterol so it's not as easily absorbed. And it also binds to the bile acids so that the liver has to use more cholesterol to make bile acid.
Yeah.
Um, Also, the beneficial bacteria in the gut, when you're supporting the beneficial bacteria, some of those short chain fatty acids help reduce cholesterol production in general. So,
Yeah.
um, but also, like when you're eating a healthier diet, you're going to naturally be eating more of those different antioxidants and polyphenols. So that's going to help managing stress because cortisol loves to say, please make lots more cholesterol because I need it to make more cortisol.
Thank you for mentioning that. I would have forgotten that one. Yes, such a huge, huge important point.
Yeah, so like stress management helps, physical activity helps increase HDL cholesterol and helps HDL like last longer in your system. Um, and I'm looking at my list. Also, like working on your gut health because we talked about the LPS, um, those lipopolysaccharides. They are an endotoxin buffer so that they can not cause as many problems in your system with inflammation. So the cholesterol is trying to save you. Also, choline, you have to have choline to package triglycerides and cholesterol and VLDL particles. So if you don't, it's just going to sit in your liver and cause problems. And the last one was, I think this is particularly important for people dealing with autoimmune kidney stuff. Viral infections, which often trigger autoimmune, they hijack cholesterol synthesis for their own replication. And sometimes other infections like H. pylori, they disrupt bile acid production. And so, like, there's lots of weird stuff that can impact your cholesterol. But so this goes back to all the hormone stuff that we said. If you don't have to be an expert in these things, but if you say, I'm going to manage my stress, I'm going to eat whole foods, I'm going to nourish my body, move my body, be physically active, get the right amount of fiber to support my gut, you are naturally going to support healthy cholesterol production. So it's always going to go back to that broken record.
Yeah, I think that's a really poignant point. And maybe one I want to end on. Is there anything else you want to add to all of that? Because I feel like that's such a good place to end anyway. So
Yeah, I feel like it kind of takes care of it.
it
Yeah.
does. And you're right. And look, at the end of the day, studies do show people with high cholesterol live longer. So again, it's, you know, we don't know the whole thing about cholesterol. So I think we have to be very careful not to jump on the bandwagon without understanding the community, which I love what you said right at the beginning, the why, and make sure you've got, and you know, I say this all the time, a curious healthcare provider that wants to ask those why questions. And you're right, at the end of the day, if it is something that you're worried about, all of those lifestyle changes generally do take care of it. So,
They do. And that makes it nice because if you don't have, a supportive healthcare team, or you can't, like, you don't have the budget to run all those, like, lovely functional tests that are so cool and fun, like, you can still do plenty of things to think, like, okay, what kind of things in my life are adding to inflammation and oxidative stress? Let's support that. I mean, just make a checklist and check them off, and it's going to have a huge ripple effect in your life because all these things, they support all kinds of different healthful biochemical pathways and processes. So
Yeah, so true. Lindsey, as always, it's such a joy and a pleasure to have you on. Thank you. For anyone listening, make sure you hit like and subscribe. That way it helps our channel and it will mean you'll get notified anytime we put up new content. If you want to know more about what Lindsey does, you can head to kidneynutritionalinstitute.org. I'll put a link in below. She works with people via telehealth, so anywhere in the US she can support you. And if you're anywhere in the world, guess what? Telehealth lets us talk to everybody everywhere. So it's great as well. So I'll put her details in below. If you want a super caring, curious practitioner who wants the best for you, then Lindsey's your gal. If you want to know more about what we do, head to www.kidneycoach.com. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter. That way you'll get notified anytime we have some sales coming on. And you'll also find us on Facebook and Instagram. We are posting every single day, really good content on there. So, and we write lots of articles that go up on our website as well. So go check it out. Lots of free information. Thank you for being part of our community, Lindsey. Thank you again for your time and your wisdom. And what are we talking about next? What hormone? What do you want to do next?
oh, we should make a list so that we
You really should have made
I'm trying to think which ones we haven't done yet. We'll look at it as soon as we're off.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
All right. Thank you, Lindsey. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you, Fiona.